People don't care if you're fast if you're not right. We say right is better than rushed. The care of getting the things that you need right matters so much more than like, hey, I got you your stuff in 45 minutes as opposed to like 90 minutes. We see all the time, back to storytelling, these anecdotes of shoppers taking a photo in front of a display of bananas and saying, hey, you ordered bananas. Do you want them green or do you want them brown, speckled because you're about to make banana bread? That's care and that's human connection. That matters so much more than like someone breaking the speed limit to get you your order in like record time.
Welcome to Best Story Wins. I'm your host, Jason LANKOW, and I'm here with my co-host, Josh RITCHIE. And today our guest is Allison Stadd of Shipt. Hey, Allison, how's it going?
It is going great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. And can you give our listeners an overview of Shipt and what you do there?
Yes, I would love to. So Shipt is a same-day delivery platform. We connect members across the country with personal shoppers who shop and deliver everything from groceries to household essentials to beauty to pet food. It's essentially like having a replica of yourself go do your shopping for you. I look after brand, culture, and media for Shipt.
That's really cool. I love that brand and culture are both under your leadership. Can you explain a little bit about why the role is structured that way? Because that's kind of a rare thing.
Yeah, totally. So, one of the first things that I did when I took on this role about 3 years ago was carve out a team that we call cultural activation. And what I wanted to do was centralize all of the functions around creating storytelling in one place under one roof. So that's everything for us, from social to influencers and creators to editorial strategy, integrated campaigns, and then experiential and partnerships. So this is something I've always wanted to do at every brand that I've worked on, and this is the first time that I've been able to bring that to life, and it's working really well for us.
Oh, that's awesome. So, what's your backstory? What were you doing before you landed here at Ship?
Yeah, so I am a marketer who never meant to be a marketer. I studied English and creative writing and art history, and I grew up doing dance and playing jazz drums, and I was always this very creative person, writing lots of stories, and thought that I would become a novelist or work in publishing or be a magazine editor. And I graduated into kind of the fumes of the 2008 recession when a lot of those pathways were starting to dry up. So, magazines, journalism, publishing, those fields were starting to look a little bit different. And so, I accidentally fell into marketing by way of digital kind of editorial and social media. I discovered that kind of like the modern era version of being a magazine editor could be being a digital brand marketer and putting my writing and storytelling skills to use in a different way. So I sort of fumbled my way into that path and then realized that I really loved in house consumer brand marketing. So I worked at Shake Shack and then Sweet Green and then BarkBox and then swung the pendulum to the other end of the scale, working at a ginormous international organization, Anheuser-Busch InBev. And now I've been at Shipt for the last 3 years, like I said.
That's awesome. Shake Shack. I don't know how you would ever leave that place.
I mean, first of all, I ate well and my dog ate well for for a long time there. And yeah, it was a fun place to cut my teeth, especially building out social because everyone loves a burger picture.
Nice. Yeah. And the pup cup.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we made awesome dog biscuits, and it was a fantastic place to kinda cut my teeth as a marketer. Wore a lot of hats, and, I think that has stood me well over the, 2 decades or so that I've been doing this.
That's great. So you have a great newsletter, The Offbeat. Can you talk a bit about what you focus on there?
Yeah, totally. So, I mentioned I have been a jazz drummer since elementary school. And over the last decade or so, as I was grappling with a lot of sort of professional existential questions, so things like, what am I really meant to do? How do I learn how to lead a team and be a respected and impactful leader? As I had kids, how do I balance work and personal life and sort of have it all and redefine what all even means? And I kind of stumbled upon this really rich metaphorical ground between music and leadership. And so I have been publishing a newsletter called The Offbeat for a couple of years now, and it takes cues from music, not just jazz, but that's sort of my native musical language, to kind of inspire how we lead. And my goal is to kind of be able to create connections and curiosity and motivation and inspiration for people around work again, for a group of people in my stage of life, like elder millennials who are kind of jaded and burnt out, but really want to like work and want to lead their teams well. So that's kind of what the content centers on.
Let's hear it for the elder millennials.
A nicer way of saying, the geriatric term.
I like elders because it's like respect your elders.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. I'm curious to understand, like, it sounds like it was initially kind of a creative outlet where you wanted to explore some of these themes and these topics, and it's become so much more for you, this newsletter. Has it led to, like, any interesting conversations or, um, kind of unexpected things career-wise or personal life-wise?
Totally. And it actually really has unlocked a ton for me in terms of how I show up as a leader in the workplace, both as what I call a corporate citizen, so just as a partner and colleague, as well as a manager of people, someone who reports to a manager. So there have been unlocks for me, like my leadership style is how a drummer shows up in a band, which is from the back of the space. So, sort of establishing this really strong presence and grounded foundation at the very back of the place that the band is playing so that everyone else can kind of crush it out in front. So, thinking about that inspiration from music has really kind of situated how I approach leading at work. Another example could be thinking about assembling a team and getting the most out of them, which is really all any of us are trying to do, through the lens of instrumentation, which in music is really just like who's on what instruments are playing at what time, what are the volumes that everyone's playing at, how do we harmonize like this variety? So I think about that a lot as well on my full-time teams or various project cross-functional teams we're standing up. How do I think about this like instrumentation?
That's so cool. I love that metaphor. On the note of brand, I'm curious how you define brand.
I love this question. Marketers love to nerd out over stuff like this, right? I think my definition has changed over the years, but these days I would say a brand is a promise. It's something that you're committing to your end users on what they can expect to feel like and experience when they interact with you anywhere, whether that's in the thing that you're selling, in a customer service email, if there's some kind of physical touch point, if they're just messaging with someone that works for the company, what is the promise and commitment that the brand stands for, the organization stands for? That is the brand in my mind.
One of the definitions that I've always gravitated towards for brand is that it's the story that people tell themselves about your company, kind of in the context of they're telling, customers, people are telling themselves stories about other companies as well, like your competitors. And I mean, that's the impetus behind the name of the show, Best Story Wins. If your story is better, people are going to choose uh, you over your competition. So, kind of with that in mind, what do you think the story is for Shipped, and how do you know that it's resonating with people?
The ship story really centers on human connection, which is awesome because that is my number one personal value, and it's really what makes marketing meaningful to me. The thing that sets Shift apart from our competitors who are also doing same-day shopping and delivery is the connection that's created between the member and the shopper. So, as an organization, we have a very high bar for quality in terms of the shoppers who get, um, granted to participate as a gig worker on the platform. We have a very high bar in terms of our expectations for delivering orders on time completely. We have a unique in category feature called preferred shopper, where as a user, if you're having a good experience with a particular shop, you would like to note that that shopper is matched with you in the future, you could do that. And then we have amazing stories of people establishing like genuine connections over years of time. Example, during COVID, there were elderly who were physically incapable of going and getting their groceries during a very scary and alarming time, and establishing these very, not just heartwarming, but really necessary relationships with Shipt, people shopping with Shipt in order to provide them what they needed just to kind of get by day to day. So that's really the story. It's human connection.
So, what role do you see content playing in telling that story and building the overall Shipped brand?
I probably biased because I studied English and creative writing, and I've been a writer as long as I've been anything. But any role that I have, I really make sure that content plays a focal role. I think because that is the mouthpiece for the brand, right? Like you guys know that better than almost anyone. Content is the bridge between the business and the end consumer. So what I just spoke about regarding human connection, that's not just like magical fairy dust. Like that is brought through by telling that story in various ways. It could be as simple as a SMS where we let you know, "Hey, I'm so and so shopping your order today. Let me know if you need anything extra added to the order that you didn't already place," or whatever. That's like content. That's like a little micro story, if it's a suggested preloaded text that we offer for the shopper, and that's communicating this idea of human connection between the two people. Emails, even in, stock up emails that are putting forward promotions that we have from various retailers. We work with about 100 retailers on our marketplace, or individual brands or items. We could weave in a story there around, um, you just hosted the Easter holiday. Is your kitchen empty? Like, do you need to stock back up on groceries now that your family and friends have left? So there's tons of touch points, but we really start from that place of content and storytelling. Hence why I created that cultural activation and campaigns team. They're the heart. They're like the beating heart of everything that we do.
That makes a lot of sense. So in your space, in the grocery delivery space, it's fairly crowded, right? And most people, when they think of companies in this space and kind of the value propositions, they probably think about things like speed and convenience. Um, how did you all land on human connection being the thing that you wanted to anchor your brand to?
I'll give you a short answer and then a slightly longer answer. The short is that our data tells us that people don't care if you're fast, if you're not right. And, we say right is better than rushed. The care of getting the things that you need right matters so much more than like, hey, I got you your stuff in 45 minutes as opposed to like 90 minutes. We see all the time, back to storytelling, these anecdotes of shoppers taking a photo in front of a display of bananas and saying, "Hey, you ordered bananas. Do you want them green or do you want them brown, speckled because you're about to make banana bread?" That's care and that's human connection. That matters so much more than like someone breaking the speed limit to get you your order in like record time.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's one of I think the chief uh concerns we have about grocery delivery in our household is, are they going to get the vegetables right? So I love that. I love that example.
Yeah, totally, and honestly, that's another example of content. So we make this great educational and training content for the shoppers with Shipt, so we can share seasonal produce, you know, guides. We can help them understand, they use the platform as members too, a lot of them, so they can kind of get the experience from the other side. There's all kinds of really touching examples of Shipt making a really powerful difference in people's lives, and I'm happy to share a very quick one from myself. One of my sons was sick, late on a weeknight, and, I have a demanding job. My partner works as well. We just have a ton going on, and so didn't have time to go out and get Tylenol, but really needed it. And in particular, my son at this time, if you have little kids, there's only a very specific flavor of Tylenol that will do the trick. And so I placed a shift order to get the Tylenol and added a couple of other things that I needed for the house, paper towels, things like that. The shopper grabbed the order and sent a message and said, "Okay, I got everything in the order except for the Tylenol." And because this was an order placed with Shipt, that person, as a human being, individual, knowing that I needed that Tylenol for my sick son, which we had an exchange about, went to a different store, completely unrelated to where I had placed the original order, a store that we have on our marketplace, and went and got me the Tylenol from a separate store so that I could have that flavor of Tylenol for my son that evening. And that's just one example of hundreds of thousands that happen all the time.
Special favorite example of one of these customer interactions that really reinforce this brand philosophy and perspective you have on these being content touch points?
There was a great one actually last summer. There was a TikTok influencer named Hannah who had created some content around a road trip that she was taking with her family, and they had forgotten the pack and play for her toddler, which again, if you have little kids, is like actually a safety concern, right? Like these kids need a safe place to sleep for the night. So she had placed a delivery order with another provider that the was not able to be successfully delivered. And so our amazing social team found that example, jumped in, messaged her. We were able to save the day, get her the pack and play that she needed and a bunch more stuff, and built this relationship with her out of genuinely caring for her in this human moment. And she then helped, drive a significant amount of business for us. So huge increase in app downloads. Actually, she shared a personalized affiliate code that we gave her after this interaction and drove really significant gross merchandise volume just out of that one kind of interaction. So it started out from a place of content first and then ended up having impactful business results, which is always what we're aiming for.
That's really cool. I love that you are so immersed in the experience that each customer has and like their personal individual stories.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that really powers me. I mentioned human connection is my number one personal value. The other two are growth mindset and creativity. And happily, marketing is a field that actually I think brings those three values to life better than anything else. So, I said I sort of fumbled my way into marketing unintentionally, but I think it was fortuitous.
Yeah, it's cool. I love the customer stories here too. I mean, it's like we have 4 kids, and, like, I can relate to the Tylenol story. I can relate to the pack and play story, like, we've been there, and, um, like, when your marketing takes the form of storytelling that people can relate to like that, like, it's gonna stick with them, so I think that's just so cool, and, yeah, as Jason said, like, it's great that you're able to have access to, like, what experiences people are having because it's like that's just, um your customer feedback is just so ripe for storytelling. It's a really cool, company to be working for, it seems like.
Yeah, it's awesome, and the use cases are really endless. I mean, you can use your Shipped account when you travel, so you can just input a different address, and prepare the place that you're staying with groceries or stuff you need stocked up on. I used it to send a birthday gift to my dearest, oldest friend who lives in a completely different state, a few months ago, that was hand delivered to her porch. um, Back to school. Schools, you get the really long list of school supplies, or you're stocking your dorm room if you've got a kid in college. We also have a student membership for half off. So the more you use it, the more you realize that you kind of can't live without it.
That's awesome. So as someone that, has a writing background, um, and who's as someone that's done marketing for a long time, now you're in more of this leadership role, um, do you still get a chance to get your hands dirty with creative work? And if so, what are your favorite types of things to work on?
Not as much as I would like, said every leader ever in every industry. But I do try and stay somewhat tuned into the weeds, let's say, just in order to kind of maintain my edge or whatever you want to call it. Like, I will never be as well versed in, for example, social as when I was, like, standing up those accounts for Shake Shack so many years ago, and, these platforms were first rolling out pages for brands instead of Prop, right? Like, I'll never have that level of familiarity, nor, like, should I expect myself to, but I do wanna be able to always understand why my team is suggesting the things that they're suggesting and have, like, a general gut for, like, I think this is a good idea or not. I implicitly trust my team that I've built here at Shipt. So I am lucky in that way that I have, assembled a team who just has an absolute super strong gut for, like, what is going to be culturally relevant or not, so I can lean on them in that way, and I still think regardless, like, that doesn't provide a crutch, like, for me to be informed in my own way. So, one of those tactics to do that is to sometimes still really get involved in the weeds.
And how are you leveraging various AI tools in your creative workflows?
Yeah, we have a proprietary Gen AI creative tool through our media agency that we've been using to develop like hundreds of assets. So we feed it like human input, like assets and concepts that, we shot and came up with internally. And then we can use that tool to spin up like 100 plus variations. And then, of course, we use all of the AI driven capabilities that have been best in class for years now already. Like we use dynamic creative optimization through our DSP. Um, obviously, like so many of the platforms that power our work have amazing AI capabilities kind of built in. Personally, I make sure that I'm dabbling in all of the various tools that are available, just to my earlier point, to make sure that I'm sort of aware of the latest and greatest. But, the other thing for us is just ensuring, of course, that we're very careful with consumer data. That's really like the number one driver there.
If you've worked in marketing for more than a year, you know that we're in a period right now of just a lot of change, a lot of disruption. Um, a lot that used to work for brand marketers, let's say 3, 4 years ago, just doesn't work anymore. And we've all had to kind of adapt and adjust how we think about marketing, how we think about various motions. And I think a lot is still kind of playing out in real time with regards to what brand marketing is going to look like in the next 6 months to 18 months or a couple years. Curious to understand if you have a prediction about where brand marketing is headed and like what kind of bets are you guys placing right now?
Well, one of them is really setting up the team structurally, like we've talked about, to put content and storytelling at the heart of everything that we do. Another is that I combined full funnel media into one team. So there's no brand or awareness media bought separately from performance or growth media or conversion media or whatever you want to call it. It's like a media team. Um, and I hope that that continues to bear out across not just the way the team is set up or the way we're thinking about buying, but really everything, like strategically kind of wrapping our heads around, like, how do we go to market? How do we connect with people? How do we ensure that, we're engaging with them over the course of their life cycle in a smart way? Like that is thought of as like just marketing, like as opposed to like there's brand over here, performance over here, I guess in like a less cringy version of this like brand formance idea. One thing that I'm really excited about that I see happening is we're able to really, thanks to AI and tech capabilities, bridge this gap between these really cool, hyper personalized, like micro communities and niches with the need for mass awareness and scale. Those things have always been really bifurcated, right? Like I think like smart marketers and brands know we need to talk to people on their terms about the things that they're personally passionate about. But then also we need to like hit these numbers and make sure that we're increasing our, mass brand awareness. And hitting these revenue targets, et cetera, and those things are, like, sort of hard to, like, braid together, and I feel like now we're on the cusp of being able to do that, like, find this cool medium between those 2 thanks to some of these tech capabilities that just didn't exist before now. So that's something I'm super interested in, not just as a marketer at the helm of a brand, but just as, like, a student of the field, like, I think it's, like, super fascinating.
What do you think has led to that, like, being more possible now?
I think that there's this macro trend of sort of like the atomization of the internet, right? And like I'm far from the first person to talk about that, but I personally experienced it. Like I think even as someone who is like a digitally based marketer, I've taken long hiatuses from social. Like I've turned more to these like more like dark social WhatsApp groups, right? And like the Discords and the Slack communities and email listservs and in-person meetings. You know, I started an article club here in Philly, which is like a kind of a mini book club kind of format. And then we've got like a text thread about that. And I think that we've seen that even on these large social platforms, right? There's like the groups and sort of the nichification, I guess, right? And so I think that macro trend had for brands and organizations that there's something there that people are sort of like crystallizing around things that they have in common, whether that's spatially with their neighborhood or an interest or passion point or whatever that might be. I think that's something we all know, but we just haven't really clued into in it for until recent years.
I love that idea of the article club. That now I'm like, I wanna join that.
So, really quick plug for that and like the why. So, I'm a huge reader. I read like 100 books a year. It's like the thing that makes me feel most like me. I started reading when I was 4 and I just like never put a book down basically. And I, as a result, have tried so many different book clubs over the years, and I'm not a good book club member because I wanna choose what I wanna read when I wanna read it, and sometimes I happen to be in the mood to read the thing at the same time, but oftentimes, like, I just wanna read the things I wanna read, but I do really enjoy, like, intellectual conversation and sparring over some kind of material, and I happened to meet a few people in Philly who felt the exact same way. They were like, "I love reading. I wanna, like, get into the meat of what a book club gets to, but I just don't I wanna be able to have this be a little bit lighter lift, and, you know, also an excuse to read some longer form stuff that just gets deprioritized on the list." You know, we're all old and tired as we've discussed.
Hey. What are some of your favorite things to be reading about right now?
Oh my gosh, so many. So I generally bought back and forth between fiction and nonfiction for books, and my dream is to publish a book on the offbeat premise, so music-inspired leadership. So I read a lot of, like, business leadership books, and also sort of, like, creative books. So I'm, like, obsessed with Rick Rubin's The Creative Act. Um, The Good Enough Job is a book that I just read. Christina Wallace's The Portfolio Life about sort of multifaceted careers. But then I love a really like a doorstop multi-generational novel. Like Intermezzo by Sally Rooney was very good as like the whole world has discussed. So I have like a quite a varied book appetite. What about you guys?
It's funny you mentioned the Creative Act. I love I'm a Audible fan. Just I feel like the main time I can consume a book is, like, driving. Uh, but I love that because you can just dive into that anywhere. You don't have to listen to it in any particular order even. Um, but yeah, I've been doing it the reason I was kinda fascinated by the article club is, like, I feel like I'm consuming a lot more kinda article, PDF type content. Um, one that I've really loved recently, I don't know if it's an article, I guess a bit of a manifesto, but, oh gosh, I have to look up his name again, but, High Agency by, Oh, George, the high
Washington?
George Washington, yeah. George Mack, I'm sorry, yeah.
Okay.
Really cool though. I think he put a lot of time and care into this essay all about high agency, but, yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with, like, taking different ideas like that and just, like, making random little Claude projects, baking together a bunch of different ideas or, like, different innovation theories, to, like, make little tools for working out and refining an idea for myself. So I've been, like, consuming a lot of content that way.
I am a history guy. I studied history in school and then went back and studied economics. And so most of my reading has to do with history and economics. So, been really digging into Revolutionary War lately and the Crusades. And I wrote my master's thesis on um, the land. This is like super in the weeds, but like the land redistribution programs in Zimbabwe in the 80s and 90s. Super, like 4 people have probably read it in the last 20 years. It's like not something that's checked out of the library often, but I've been like kind of going deep on that, and then the the history that preceded that. So like I know a lot about a bunch of stuff that like not a lot of people care about, but like for me it's like a nice thing. It's like very soothing. Like I don't know, for whatever reason, like different people like different stuff, but like reading about, you know, what was going on in sub-Saharan Africa in the 60s, or what was happening in the Crusades eras in Spain, or what was happening in, the colonies here in the 1700s. Like, I don't know. It's like stuff I can just nerd out on for hours. So
Yeah, no, I feel that. I've been very into, speculative fiction in recent years where it's like, sort of over like Venn diagrammy with just, like, contemporary fiction and science fiction. It's sort of like a like Black Mirror in novel form, but I find that it's a nice escape from just the everyday, and that's similar to why I am very staunch about physical books as opposed to ebooks or audiobooks. For me personally, like, the tactile nature of the paper, the bookmark and stuff, it's just, like it's part of, like, being like, "I am taking a moment." It's like meditation, you know?
Oh, you have to check out, Elliot Pepper if you haven't. He's a friend of mine, but I mean, I can't even believe how prolific he is, but he writes amazing, like, sci-fi and kind of futuristic novels. But, I that just I love, on I think it's every.to. I know he writes for them sometimes as well, but they gather just amazing writing there too.
Oh, that's awesome. Very cool. I will definitely check that out.
So, what else are you working on that you're really excited about?
Let's see. I mean, I outside of Shipped, I am really focused on the Offbeat, my newsletter. So it's through Substack, Allison Stadd Substack, and just really continuing to explore how to use music as a way to, I call it like jazz up how we lead, really lead, live, and work, and continue to build that out both as its own creative project, but also as this like mental exploration for myself. Like I said, like I take very seriously the what I consider the privilege of leading a team. Like we've all had examples and experiences of where poor leadership has created like a really shitty situation. And I put my own burden on my shoulders to ensure that that doesn't happen for the people that I can affect that for. So that's really what I'm investing a lot of my um energy into when I'm not working on Shift.
That's really cool. So, what's the best place for people to find you online?
LinkedIn. So I try and share ideas within that same kind of general space. So music inflected ideas on brand marketing, leadership, or just unconventional ideas in general. And then the Substack itself called The Offbeat. So Allison Stadd, ALLISONSTADD.substack.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Allison. Really appreciate your perspective on brand and culture and creativity. We'll definitely be following along in the offbeat. Appreciate you joining us.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This has been great.
Yeah, thank you.